Welcome to my channel, where the scariest stories come to life. Before we dive into today's chilling tale, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications, so you never miss a story. Now, let's get into the horror. I work in the liquor department of a retail grocery store, a section somewhat isolated from the main shopping area. One day, a man came in, purchased a few alcohol shots, and started chatting with me. It was a normal, even pleasant interaction, until he suddenly pulled a massive Ax out of his backpack. I was completely stunned. It feels surreal to even recount it, but he began rambling about how no one would dare mess with him because of his axe. He brandished it openly, demonstrating its sharpness by slicing his receipt in half on the counter, leaving a deep gouge. He then spoke of how easily it could cut through my bone and flesh. I tried to de-escalate the situation, remaining calm and saying as little as possible. I'm ashamed to admit I froze. I didn't tell him to put the axe away or leave. I just wanted to get him out of there as quickly as I could. As soon as he left, I immediately informed my supervisor. She pulled me aside and asked for a detailed description of the man. A security officer reviewed the surveillance footage and identified him. Our store manager contacted the police. I gave the police officer my account of the incident. He informed me that they had already spoken to the man in the parking lot and would be issuing him a trespass notice. It was incredibly unnerving to be in that isolated area with someone who seemed mentally unstable and was wielding a huge axe directly at me. Flashback to 1997. Our rented trailer was meant to be a temporary home for our family. Once the weather warmed up and my mother could hire someone to take care of the yard work, she'd be able to quit her second job and spend more time at home. That dream was shattered by a reprehensible kid named Jay. The next thing I knew, I was having what felt like an out-of-body experience. I was aware of what was happening, but I had no control over my actions. I grabbed his burned wrist and squeezed with all my might, relishing his wince of pain. Then, I began punching him in the mouth and the bridge of his nose, over and over. I didn't stop until a couple of students and a teacher pulled me off him. When he finally stood up, his mouth was bleeding, and his tough guy persona had vanished. He was crying like a baby, swearing revenge. I told him if he tried, I'd kill him. We were both hauled into the principal's office. The school had a zero-tolerance policy for fighting, and I wasn't even given a chance to explain my side of the story. I was suspended for a week. Looking back, I still think it was worth it. During my suspension, I was grounded and forced to watch whatever my mother wanted on her day off. We were sitting in the living room watching Judge Judy when we heard a knock at the door. My mom sighed, expecting Jehovah's Witnesses or the root beer float popsicle salesman. But when she looked through the window, she turned to me, exasperated. "Oh, this is just great. You just had to put your hands on that kid." She opened the door. I got up and looked over her shoulder. Standing on our porch were two police officers who were investigating the fire and a conservatively dressed woman. She wasn't much older than my mom, and when she spoke, I recognized her voice. It was Jay's aunt, a well-known religious busybody. I expected her to be there to press charges. But I was wrong. She told us that when Jay returned to school, he bragged about burning down our trailer. CPS had gotten involved, and he'd tried to brush them off with a flimsy story. But his aunt was suspicious, and when she pressed him, he confessed, even bragging that his only regret was not having enough kerosene to create a trail to our house. That's when she did the right thing and called the police. Jay was at school, so she was accompanying the officers to pick him up. First, she wanted to apologize and tell us she was thankful we weren't hurt. It wasn't long before we were in court. Jay sat there in handcuffs, glaring at us. The look on his face was palpable when his own aunt testified against him. We corroborated her story, and he was sentenced to a lengthy stay in a juvenile detention center 3 counties over. He was also ordered to pay a significant portion of the damages. We thought that was the end of it, but it wasn't. When he was released at 16, he was on probation until he turned 18. By then, the whole town knew what he was capable of. He was no longer seen as tough, just stupid. And he proved them right. One late November night, he broke into someone's garage to steal an ATV. He hotwired it, opened the garage door, and sped off. The owner came out with a shotgun loaded with rock salt and fired as he fled. He managed to lodge a good portion of the salt in his lower back. According to eyewitnesses, he kept going, but a police car caught up with him. He tried to outrun them, but either the pain or the icy road caused him to lose control, and the ATV rolled over on top of him. His injuries were fatal. Despite everything he did, I couldn't help but think about his aunt. She'd turned him in because she loved him and hoped it would be a wake-up call. Unfortunately, there was no waking up from this permanent consequence. Now, she'd be burying her teenage nephew, her last remaining family. Before I finish, I want everyone to understand that actions have consequences. It's an overused expression, but it's true. Ignoring this crucial life lesson cost that bully his life. When I was 14, I, a girl, spent a lot of time online. I met a man who claimed to be 26 and offered me a large sum of money to pretend to be his girlfriend for his family. I thought it was an easy, low-risk way to earn some cash. However, his requests became increasingly disturbing. He offered me $100,000 to have a baby with him. He also suggested that my friend and I go to his house and engage in deeply inappropriate activities for a significant amount of money. My friend and I devised a plan to obtain the money and then flee. We were incredibly naive and should have informed our parents about his messages. We decided to meet him in a crowded public area to prevent him from abducting us. When he arrived, he looked much older than 26, overweight, and intimidating. He bought us cigarettes and gave us $50 each, promising the rest later that night. As we left, he texted me, revealing that he had been trying to see my underwear through my shorts. I was deeply unsettled. Despite our fear, my friend and I still believed we could get the money and report him to the police without any harm coming to us. We arranged to meet him across the street from a park, in front of some houses. He was in his car and told us to get in. I demanded to see the money first. He showed us approximately $1,000. I told him to hand me the money, and then I would get in. He insisted that I get in first. I cautiously entered the car, sitting on the edge of the seat, keeping the door ajar. "All right," I said, "now tell her to get in, and you can give us the rest." I refused to allow my friend to enter until he gave us more money. Suddenly, his expression turned furious, and he reached towards me as if to strike me. Just then, a man emerged from his house. "Hey, what's going on here?" he yelled. The man forcibly pulled me out of the car, and it sped away, the door still swinging open. We tried to get the license plate number to report him to the police, but unfortunately, we hadn't caught it. He never contacted us again. I provided the police with my Facebook information and all the messages, hoping they could identify him. However, he had used a false name and discarded his phone immediately after the incident, making him impossible to trace. We were incredibly foolish, but this experience highlights the importance of parents monitoring their children's online activities. Thanks for sticking around till the end. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to give the video a like and leave a comment with your thoughts. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a terrifying tale. See you in the next one.